In a fancy, gated island community in Montreal, a company that works with living things was hired to take care of the grounds at a very special golf club. They sprayed a new fertilizer on the area that was meant to melt the snow and keep the grass green and perfect all winter long, so that rich people could play golf whenever they wanted. The next day, in town, a security guard named Dan brought a lot of supplies back to his home. He was a very prepared survivalist who was always practicing for the worst. He listened to a radio show that believed in every conspiracy theory out there. Tonight, Dan was trying to make a fire without any matches, but he couldn't do it. So, he grabbed a shotgun shell to use the gunpowder, which caused a small explosion that burned off one of his eyebrows. At the golf club, Dan's daughter Patricia worked as a caddy. Meanwhile, Michelle, the CEO of the company, was playing golf with a wealthy couple to show them how well their fertilizer was working on the grass. But deep under the ground, the fertilizer particles were multiplying and contaminating the town's water. Back at a studio, an actor named Jacques drank a glass of tap water before he left to go grocery shopping. At the store, all the fruits and tools were washed with tap water, and water was even sprayed on fresh produce on the shelves. Jacques suddenly felt a little dizzy, but he ignored it. When he got home, he noticed his teeth were turning green and his stomach was rumbling. By the time he found his wife in the bathroom, he had fully turned into a zombie and bit her, eating her flesh and making her transform. Jacques joined her in the bathtub as their eyes turned green and they stopped moving. Back at the club, Michelle and the couple returned to the main building and were surprised to see that it was empty. Suddenly, a man ran out yelling that they needed to run because people were sick. Soon, a group of zombie employees came out and chased him. At that moment, a dog appeared, and the wife called it over, but the animal jumped on her and furiously bit her neck. Michelle and the husband immediately pushed the dog away, only to see more zombies showing up. While the woman froze as her body changed, both men ran inside the building and locked the door to keep the zombies out. However, the dog managed to sneak in and bite the husband's leg, so they locked it up in another room. The zombies gathered at the door and started hitting it hard, and then the husband also turned into a zombie and started chasing after Michelle, who ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife to hide. In town, Dan got a call from an old lady who said her neighbors were being extra loud and fighting. Dan went over there and rang the doorbell, and the neighbors appeared on the other side of the door, showing they were zombies. At the same time, the old lady turned into a zombie too and started chasing Dan, who immediately hid in his car and tried to call for help, but nobody answered. As more zombies appeared outside his window, Dan also tried to call Patricia, but she didn't answer because she was busy trying to escape the zombies herself. Worried, Dan decided to leave his work car and get his own car with a weapon to go find his daughter. Nearby, a teenage boy named Andre almost used tap water to make milk for his baby sister, Annie, but his mom reminded him to use bottled water to keep the baby safe. Andre never drank water of any kind, preferring to stick to soda. Soon after, his mother started to feel dizzy, but Andre thought it was just from all her exercising. Moments later, the mother turned into a zombie and tried to attack Andre, chasing him through the house. Terrified, the kid ran outside and tripped. Just as his mother was about to reach him, Dan hit her with his car. She was injured but still alive. Andre wanted to help her, but Dan stopped him. He explained that 911 wasn't picking up and told Andre to hide in his house. Then he left. More zombies were coming, and Andre refused to leave his mother, so he grabbed her legs and dragged her back into the house. After quickly closing all the doors, he tried calling 911, but he only got a recorded message saying that the island was under quarantine. At the bridge that connected the island to the mainland, it was shown that city police had put up a gate, and no one could go in or out. At that moment, his mother tried to attack Annie, so Andre dragged her away and locked her in the bathroom. The mother noticed that the shower head was dripping water and decided to get into the tub. Meanwhile, Annie kept crying, causing the zombies to gather outside the door. Andre decided to cover her with pillows, a blanket, and a big stuffed animal until her crying couldn't be heard anymore, and the zombies left. A few minutes later, Andre's cat came back into the house through the pet door, and a zombie suddenly reached inside, almost grabbing Andre. Boy left the room, and the zombie stopped moving, only to start moving again when Andre came back with a golf club. He didn't attack though. He chose to hide instead. At the golf club, Patricia was hiding in the garage and finally called her dad for help. Dan soon arrived and found a bunch of zombies outside, but he didn't hesitate to fight them. He quickly killed a few with a knife and knocked others down before rushing inside. At that moment, the police moved away from the bridge gate because the military arrived in planes to bomb the main areas of the island, which cut off the power. The next morning, Annie's nanny tried to take the bridge to get to work, but it had been destroyed. Meanwhile, Andre recorded the zombies through the window, only stopping to watch a press conference with the Minister of Public Security. The man explained that they had to destroy the bridge to isolate the problem and swore the situation was under control. Just then, Andre's phone ran out of battery. Afterward, Andre checked on his mom and noticed she was covered in a green slime. Suddenly, Annie crawled in, and the mom tried to attack her. So Andre made noise and shook her favorite vegetables to make her follow him instead. They eventually reached the living room, and the mom accidentally bumped into the TV stand, which caused the television to fall and kill her. Devastated, Andre had no choice but to take her body back to the bathroom. He noticed grass growing on her injuries. Then he grabbed her phone, but it was broken. Andre then took a ladder to the front door to look outside and saw that the zombies were just standing there in the sun. Tired of being stuck inside, he grabbed the golf club and put Annie in a baby carrier. He opened the door, let the zombies see the cat, and they chased after it. With the entrance cleared, Andre ran as fast as he could toward the grocery store with the zombies chasing him. The doors were locked, and he almost got surrounded by the monsters. But a door suddenly opened, and Dan pulled him inside. Dan had been there since yesterday and had made a small camping space, but he didn't have a plan. All the boats had been taken, and swimming in the river would kill them with hypothermia. Andre went looking for baby formula while Annie looked around and suddenly found a zombie behind a locked door. It was Patricia, who had been infected as well. Dan was keeping her there, hoping someone might cure her later. At the golf club, Michel had reinforced all the doors and was using a radio to talk to his company, who told him that experts were on their way and he needed to follow the plan. 2. The zombie dog kept barking at him, so he kicked it away. It was also revealed that he had killed his friend in the kitchen. Back at the store, Dan still couldn't start a fire, so Andre just used a blowtorch. While they ate, they listened to Dan's favorite radio show, which blamed the zombie attack on eco-terrorists. The host interviewed the Minister of Security, but the man was the typical politician who dodged questions and gave vague answers that said nothing. The host grew suspicious and thought the government would sacrifice the citizens to clean up the area. Dan decided to call the radio station and explain that there were survivors, asking for help. However, the host said that the rest of the world didn't want the infection, so he wanted to know what was going on before taking anyone's side. Frustrated, Dan hung up. Afterward, Dan and Andre talked about their options and agreed they should find the cause of this so a vaccine could be created. Dan thought about it and concluded that it had to be in the water because it was the only thing every single person had in common. He didn't drink tap water himself because of his paranoia. He even thought terrorists might have poisoned the water, which Andre found ridiculous. Moments later, the trio left the store with Patricia, whose head had been put in a cage to keep her from biting. They found a bunch of zombies covered in green slime and enjoying the sun. A little girl zombie attacked Dan as soon as she saw him. He quickly pushed her off but didn't have the heart to kill her and kept going. The group managed to get into Dan's car before the zombies caught up and safely left the area. Meanwhile, a pair of armed twins sent by the biotech company arrived at the golf club and shot down every zombie in their way without a problem. Inside, Michel was burning all the contracts and documents related to his deal with the club, but he kept a small sample of the fertilizer. The twins soon found him, and Michel took one of their suitcases, which contained spheres with a cure that would kill the infection within 24 hours. When he grabbed a sphere, the twins captured him and forced him to eat the fertilizer sample before knocking him out. As they dragged his body away, the sphere dropped to the floor. Back with the survivors, they arrived at the water plant and decided to leave Annie in the car so her crying wouldn't attract zombies. They couldn't leave Patricia with the baby, so Dan and Andre brought her along when they entered the building, where a grassy zombie was hiding in the water. Patricia sensed this and started running to find him, so the guys had to follow her. She quickly found the pool and jumped in, causing Dan to jump in too to rescue her. Suddenly, the other zombie came out of the water and almost attacked, but when Dan found Patricia, he held her in front of him and the other zombie backed away. Andre came closer and realized the zombies wouldn't attack each other, but the monster heard him and immediately started chasing him. While Andre went outside and more zombies joined the chase, Dan tried to get Patricia out of the water and accidentally ripped off her arm. Eventually, Andre reached the car to hide inside, and Dan came out too, using Patricia as a shield to keep the zombies at bay. They joined the siblings in the car, and Andre heard a noise that made him realize Patricia also had a phone. He took it and used her severed arm to unlock it, which made him notice the grass growing on the wound. Dan thought the grass in winter was weird until he remembered the golf club's latest invention, realizing this wasn't the work of terrorists but of golfers. At the golf club, the twins started breaking the spheres on the grass to get rid of all the evidence. Dan's group soon arrived and noticed the strange smoke on the grass, so Andre made sure to record everything. They rushed to the front door and found it locked, so Dan looked for another way in. He climbed to the roof and got inside to open the door for the others, then locked Patricia in the storage room while Andre used chairs to form a playpen for Annie. Dan and Andre started investigating the building and found the dog, which was still breathing and covered in grass. At that moment, Dan started to feel dizzy, and Annie began crying, so Andre rushed to calm her down. However, he discovered she had escaped the improvised playpen. While Andre looked for his sister, Dan went down a dark hallway and found a bunch of bombs that would blow up the building soon. He also started to feel worse, but he refused to give up and kept going until he found the room with the timer for all the explosives. Dan fell and was too weak to stand up, so he used Patricia's arm to stop the timer right before his eyes turned green too. Outside, the twins noticed nothing was exploding and went back inside to investigate. They found Annie in the kitchen and fed her the fertilizer before leaving. Andre kept looking around and saw a zombified Michelle in a locked room, so he ran the other way and finally found his sister. He took her away. In another room, his way was blocked by the twins, who covered Annie's mouth and grabbed Andre to feed him the fertilizer. However, before the sample dropped, Annie became a zombie, too, and bit the twin's finger off. The other twin was almost attacked by Dan. When she fought him off, Andre pushed her toward him, and Dan bit her. When Andre moved back, he stepped on the cure sphere, causing the smoke to spread through the room and start working inside Annie and Dan. Afterward, Dan chased after Andre, and they made it to the kitchen. But when Dan was about to bite him, he sensed Annie's presence and pulled back. At the same time, the twins pulled out their guns and shot each other at the same time before one could finish transforming. Next, Andre took Dan's old-school phone from his jacket and used it to make Patricia's phone ring. When he found it, he made a video explaining everything, begging for help. While the video was being shown on the news, Andre took Dan to the storage room so he could stay with his daughter. Soon, the government sent army helicopters to do some deep cleaning. A group of soldiers used flamethrowers to burn any zombie in their path, and Andre went out to ask for help, bringing Patricia's arm to be used for vaccines. However, another survivor reached the soldiers first only to be shot. As the cure worked and Annie got better, Andre decided to hide since the soldiers were clearly not there to save anyone. At the golf club, Dan also recovered, but when the soldiers opened the door, they immediately burned him and Patricia down. The Minister of Public Security announced that the infection had already been contained and eliminated, but he was seen drinking from a mug with the biotech company's logo, which meant he was part of the conspiracy all along. Andre kept wandering around, finding more bodies of survivors who had been shot. Suddenly, he noticed something in the river. It was a boat of volunteers led by Annie's nanny, who rescued him without hesitation. As they left the island, Andre realized the arm was useless now and threw it in the water, where a fish took a bite and quickly became a zombie. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.